Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I really want to make sure the card has made it around. So you guys can thank you. Then we can take one moment and let me get what and you're already on, so I have to do this 10 o'clock. Will you raise your hand if you haven't had a chance to claim that? It's especially if you are on the SCC. Becky had a good point that this is a trickier setting to make sure we have the right. So we just want to get that passed through and then let Natalie finish it. Raise the hand again if you still need to find that. Okay, great. We can just check off so that's good. They're already on the list. Okay, we are filming this meeting and it is recording. And so I know this is really annoying, but I also know it's really annoying over here on Zoom and not be able to hear anybody. So I had a third microphone, that one's not working, but we usually have two. So I'm gonna let Uni hold this for now and hopefully we can pass it around or show them what's up here so that everybody can. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll just introduce, we just I'm just gonna have to because we've had it on. But Julie, thank you. We really appreciate your help getting everything set up for the meeting. My name is Kristen McDonald. I am the chair of the SCC. I want to welcome you all here today. We really appreciate your interest and we're especially grateful to all of our SCC members who have been so active and engaged this year. We'll go ahead and start off the agenda. As I mentioned in the email, I think Natalie and I need a little bit more time to prepare the minutes for last meeting, so we'll go over those and the meetings for tonight in our next meeting. So look for those. Also, we sent out the email of the fundraiser request that has come in since our last meeting, and it's probably helpful for them to know if they can get moving on. We decided to do it on the agenda. So I have the baseball fundraiser for hoping to raise 12 to 15,000 through their advertisements on the field. And then we have men's soccer requesting crack shack dine-out meetings for 500 to 1,000. So I have a motion to either discuss or to move forward with yea or nay on either of those. Second. Okay. SCC members, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, great. I'll go ahead and sign those for the night. Thank you. Okay, so before we get started with the land trust plan, I just wanted, actually maybe I'll just ask Pam really quick. Is the map that I have outlined in the email, the map of like how much money we have that I sent in the email like this? Okay, so like oh, okay.
Yeah, the kind of rough amounts we talked about, I think are.
Okay, and I did pull those numbers from the site, so I just want to make sure we know exactly how much we can talk. All right, well, I guess let's just go ahead and jump into it. So the main purpose of our meeting tonight is one of our legislatively mandated goals is to approve the land trust. And it's money that comes to us from the state. We've talked about this a few times. I sent everybody a copy of it, and we got hooked up to put it up on the board, and I think Pam will help walk us through that in a moment. And I do know that we've got at least one member who has some ideas of how we'd like to amend it. So maybe Pam, I'll just turn it over to you to kind of give us an overview. I know we've had this before, but we'll talk through what we did for this last year. I did have one member who asked me, like, just a little bit of just an overview of what we're actually looking at. So the plan that Pam's gonna put up on the board is the one that was approved by this SCC at this time last year. And it is what we've been operating under for this current school year. What we'll be doing tonight, as we do it every year, is deciding what we want to do for the next school year. So that's kind of what's happening right now. So I'll let you into one of them.
Thank you. I've actually done a lot of updates on and giving you guys a draft to look at today of what we should do this year. It takes an inordinate amount of time to start from a blank screen, and we have talked about all year kind of updating and forwarding some of the things that we've done that we feel like we've made a couple of year commitment to, or that we feel like are helpful for our greatest academic needs. So there's not a ton of different things, and then it's really obvious to me that we want to add a halftime performing arts sometime into this plan, and we feel like there's some room because of changing the math from a full time to a halftime. So I'm just gonna say that right out front, that I'm expecting the thing that we will have to maybe give some input on is how to word that and how to put it in. The rest are things that are updated. So let me just run through that with you. And know that this is not a very pretty form right now, and things are not in the right order ever. And anyway, it's a little problematic, but I feel pretty good about what's in here, so we're gonna go through. So goal 1, and I think you guys all had this from last year, and the goals are kind of the same. Goal 1 had to do with graduation rates and college and career readiness. And what we want to do to make sure that happens is to provide adequate tier 1 and tier 2 interventions and support to help students achieve that, to graduate on time and to be ready to meet the world and their goals and their whatever they want to do. We know that graduation is the critical piece for that. And so down here, for each goal, you check off. Can you guys see this okay? Should I make it a little bigger? It looks kind of big to me, and this screen is really small. Is that a little better? Okay. So for each goal, you check some priorities of your greatest needs, and our greatest needs are college and career readiness and graduation increases. Then the next one, and so pay attention to this, because all these boxes, when we do something for performing arts, will have the same boxes, so you can kind of be thinking about that. Here's a little bit of data about our graduation rate. We have been going up for the last 3 years, and I put these 3 years in because that was what was in last year. We didn't have the 2022 graduation rates last year when we did this. It's always kind of behind. But we did get up to 89% this past year. Our goal has been 90%, and I feel good that we're heading in the right direction. So we believe, and I put this in here, and again, this is all draft, but I believe that we need to continue efforts from last year with a stronger emphasis on tier 2 interventions that will impact our graduation rates. Also impacting East is the addition of TSI target groups. You guys who haven't been around in meetings, TSI is a ranking that the state gives when we have students in the bottom 3% on proficiency scores. It ends up, we were in TSI for our multi-language learners for several years before I was here, and we're kind of at the end of that. So to pay attention to those is going to be really important as we go through, because the state is paying attention. So we have that multi-language learners have been there, and who we have coming on board is our special ed students and our Pacific Islander subgroup. So when I talk about tier 1 and tier 2 interventions and possibly tier 3, we're really going to make sure we're focusing on the students who are really needing our help. So we're going to support those students for reading and other academic interventions, and we are hoping that the number of students who have been identified that are receiving services from us at East will increase by 25%. We already have a lot of supports. So that, and again, that's kind of the data piece, and that's going to be in every goal. Then we have some action plan stuff.
All right, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Last meeting, there was questions raised with regard to the progress towards graduation this year. Have we done anything to determine what kind of percentage we're looking at this year with where seniors are, where they are enrolled in classes? Have we looked at that? Do we have an idea? Do we have a target for that this year?
the counselors are highly motivated and laser sharp focused on their seniors and their by alpha. We know every senior in the building, we know where they are. And that is, the counselors share that data with me periodically, like every quarter. And they are working with families and they're making sure students have the correct classes and the correct opportunity to recover credit, like through supervised studies.
Okay,
That is an intense focus.
So having said that, do we have a target number or percentage?
We want to be 90% or higher students who graduate on time.
Okay, but are we on track for that?
Yeah, we're working, that's what we're working towards. Yeah, we're having.
Give 6 more months.
Right?
We have students in all different levels. We're not just exactly, that's our goal, and it says. So every single student has a plan in action.
Maybe with parents and we can, I'm not sure how to, for right now, especially since, like I said, students can be counted for quite a while as graduating on time. And that's why the state number is often at least a year behind. Because there are students still graduating now that will still count for that.
Is it that hard to target these kids? And these 10%? How hard is it?
The graduating class this year is expected to be around 500, so it's a lot of us. The point, like I'm senior, but my graduating class, because when we get in our progress reports for their transcript at the beginning of the year, I think it was like 480 something, so that's sort of 500 seniors. So it's quite a bit.
I'm saying. Who are these? Can we go after these? And like go to their homes and like find them?
How many of the counselors, anyone who is really on fire with seniors or knows seniors or is a senior can definitely have some impact. For today, we can maybe have the counselors do some kind of from your spreadsheets. Just do a little bit of compilation of most of the seniors are on track. Some seniors fall apart in the last quarter. I think there's a lot of things that are happening with seniors right now. A lot of seniors are working to support their families and their, there's a lot of things going on. The counselors know.
Well, then it'd be different paths to happen. I think as a parent, we don't always know what you're already doing. So as a counselor, would you mind sharing like what you're doing with your tackles here pretty heavy? And this time of the year, it might help when we get it. It's not like it's just, we're not.
Yeah, so we have our tracking script, we have. We meet with them, quarterly, we send out dates to the. So things are being done, in a systemic way to stay on track with these students. Now, it's a moving target, they want to do a couple classes one quarter, and they make it up, and so that target is down. So we have identified the students who are at high risk, and we are working with them.
If a student leaves skating time, I can see, okay, we're done with that student. But if that student is around, there's no reason why you can cut that kid. Okay. I mean, and find it, how hard is it to get a kid to graduate these high schools? And how hard is it? The same. Can we pay another track? We can find these kids and like, graduate.
Let's have Brenda leave the comment and then I have a follow for the meeting.
Maybe we just need to move on. I want to know how you propose to track them down. I mean, with what, how,
Can
I
you
think it's fair.
track this kid? Find out why are we graduating?
I think we as teachers and counselors are trying that, and we're not.
I'm not beating you guys up.
So, okay.
Okay, so I think that how about we First of all, Pam, I think what we need to make clear is this is not the fund we approved last year, that this is a proposal for what you would like to propose for this next plan, correct?
Our goal last year was the same, that we're gonna raise graduation rates by providing support to students who needed it.
But this is new language that you're writing.
It's a little different language, but it's the same, it's just more clear, I think it's more clear to people who maybe hadn't read last year.
How about we give Pam, instead of taking questions, let's first have Pam finish going through the proposal, and we'll get to questions after. Well, we'll get to after, let's just get through this. So we'll let Pam go ahead and move forward. Okay.
I got you.
Sorry.
Can you just write down questions, because I may answer some questions you have, and so and we'll be here until tomorrow, which I know I'm going to do, if we really are thinking of our empathy. When you see the big picture, you may have some questions that we need to address. Is that okay? Quick, Matt, quick.
I was just asking, I was gonna ask if you could clarify what those supports are for the students.
Some of that's coming. So good, that's a good, I don't know the word. Segue, thank you. Okay, so here's some action steps. And again, a lot of this in here is what we did last year, but I tried to add some language about how it's an intervention or tier 2 intervention or whatever. So one thing that we can do when we're thinking about interventions for graduation is we have school goals around avid support and around higher level thinking. That's a tier 1 for every kid, every student. Examples of tier 1 interventions include lower class sizes, support for MLL students, utilizing highly qualified teachers, the avid strategies for all students, higher level thinking training, and emphasis by all faculty. All students receive a rigorous class schedule during freshman and sophomore years, which leads to higher success in high school. Tier 1, every student. And again, it's in here just to make it clear. We're identifying tier 2 interventions that we need to strengthen for the benefit of students who need to participate. Examples of tier 2 strategies include, or interventions for support include supervised studies, which is for credit recovery, techniques for tough times, and added elective classes. So those are for a smaller group of students who need the support, and it's an intervention for support. So those are examples. What we would like to do is continue for tier 2, continue to employ a transition counselor to assist younger students to transition to high school and be known by a trusted adult during that critical time. 50% of that funded through land trust last year, and we're proposing for this year. A tier 1 intervention is to employ a counseling intern to assist in registration, help create success at ease, and work with students to find pathways to their high school success. That transition intern, or the counseling intern, works with a larger group of students, help all the counselors with their students, and has a different role than the transition counselor, who mostly works with 9th grade students. Another tier 2 intervention is to have support through student advocates who mentor students and help keep hallways and bathrooms safe at East. And that is, again, something that we helped to support last year. All right. Next. Aspire math scores is their math goal. Our Aspire math scores for 9th and 10th graders have fluctuated before and after COVID from 21 to 34%. Down from 32 to 39% 2019. So in 20 there wasn't testing. East High School will increase student end of year math Aspire scores by 5% for our TSI targeted groups. And this is exactly what we have in our school improvement plan, which is the plan that needs to line up almost exactly with this one. We're looking at MLL students and others who need intervention, and they need to have higher test scores at the end of the year. And we have a lot of growth, but we don't necessarily have the proficiency scores yet to back it up. And this is graduation and math. If students do well in math, they tend to graduate from high school. There is a high correlation between those two things. The little bit of data, or why is it a critical need? And this is going to be really important for any goal. We have to show why it's a critical academic need. So we have already, last year and coming up this year, have prioritized lower class sizes for freshmen and sophomores, especially ninth graders, to assist all students, including TSI identified groups, to achieve higher proficiency on end of year state tests. Class sizes are set already this year and coming up between 23 and 26 students, ninth grade especially. So we've already, I know we talked about that quite a bit last time, that has already been in place here. And it's good to have a chance to make sure it's known. There's, the math people at the district are adopting a new math curriculum that we're going to be implementing. And there's something called math language routines that are embedded in that curriculum. And it helps all students to do better. And it allows them to learn academic language and math, which is a really critical piece. The implementation and professional development for teachers in this area is provided by the district math team. 100% of math teachers will have this opportunity. And I put this in here, even though trust plans doesn't have to pay for this, but it's a critical piece to show that we're working in all areas toward this outcome. Math teachers will participate in summer and school year opportunities to write effective checkpoints. Checkpoints are kind of the new thing we're calling it instead of interim tests. Our interim testing in the goal from last year for all of our goals was problematic for many reasons. These checkpoints are going to be written by math teachers and used to make sure that students have higher level thinking opportunities and that they are able to impact those student outcomes. So they're going to look at students and say, wow, I didn't decide to do this, then you don't learn it. So we're going to do it again. And that's something the teachers are going to do with each other. So that's some of the reason that's a critical need. The next part are the steps. And again, a lot of these steps are things we're already doing or we've updated. The math team is going to have professional development adopted by the district, and the district's going to provide them some help with that. They are going to write effective checkpoints, which incorporate qualitative and quantitative checkpoint data, which they're going to use in their classes. Students will have math language checkpoints administered for periodic checks of student progress once a month, incorporating higher level thinking and all the other things. And that is exactly from our school improvement plan, the same language. We're going to hire a math teacher to provide support for AP and higher level kids and to lower class size in maybe secondary math, because that's a little higher for 10th graders than 9th graders. We have this math teacher this year. We're also going to pay math teachers during the summer to write checkpoints and plan for departmental observations, which will occur throughout the year. The things that have money with this is the math teacher, the half-time math teacher, and the teacher professional development time when they're working in the summer and developing their curriculum.
Can you clarify how much for each?
I have estimated, and I wrote the whole thing with every number that I'm talking to you about, and it went away about a half hour ago. I put in 5,000 to 7,000 for teachers working in the summer and in non-contract times. And the half-time math teacher is about 65,000. All the other things are things we're doing on our own or with district support. So that's math. So our scores are low. We have identified groups. We have different kinds of needs that need to happen for them. And we will provide some support through trust plans to make that happen.
And would you mind clarifying the budget for the first goal?
Yes. The first goal. Sorry, you guys. Like I said, this is a very ugly form. The full-time transition counselor is paid half through trust plans, 65,000.
So you're saying the cost of them?
We didn't have it accurate last year. I checked the numbers. The counseling intern is partially paid by other budgets. It's 10,000 in this. Our advocates are 29.5 hourly advocates, and we tried to support 2 last year. It was about 17,000, whatever it is in there.
That's something, and so you said, now last year, the 10,000 for the counseling intern was not, it was just facing it is.
No, there's more. There's a little more that was paid through a district council budget.
So that is budget.
What we are putting in our budget is the same as last year, so 10,000 and half of the full-time counselors, which the rest of the counselors paid by me.
I don't think we had 10,000.
I think we did. I checked it. But either way, listen,
You want to put it into this year?
yes,
Okay.
we did have it, had all three of those.
I have a question, just whenever you're,
Okay, hold on, and write it down, so you don't forget.
okay, about.
About this. And we talked a little bit about advocates, a bit about advocates or?
No.
Okay, write it down, we'll come back to it. So those are the pieces, and you notice I'm writing a lot of things in this plan that do not have to be paid by this plan. But that's smart, and Trustlands also is very impressed when a school says, we are doing this already, and we are supporting X, Y, and Z, and we are asking you to plan us to do A and B. So I think that's a really good thing. Let me see if I can now. So we've done graduation, we've done tier 1 and 2, we've done math. Pay attention to the boxes, because we'll fill them in for the other. And here is the RI goal. Remember, this is one of the board. I hate to say it's like a demand, but it is kind of, it's a board demand. We offer we give the RI 3 times a year. Sorry if you guys have already heard this 10 times, but again, it's something to share with the community that isn't necessarily well known. And the board is using this longitudinal data to decide how to handle reading with our students. So this is, again, you notice everything is college and career readiness, because the skills to be ready for college or a job are the same, and they're pretty high level in our world. Let's see, okay. Student scores in English language arts on our end of year EOI, end of year Aspire tests are low. And I'm not equivocating with that word, they are low. And again, we have growth, but we don't always have proficiency to back it up. Our 9th grade scores were 41% and 23% in the last 2 years of testing. 10th grade scores were 40% and 35%. So there's a little bit of good news that the 10th grade goes up.
3% proficient.
Yes, right, proficient. And I've got to just put a plug in that COVID really kind of destroyed students' ability to take standardized tests of any kind. It is really been difficult to reteach students to take tests and to take them seriously and to understand how important they are for us. That is something I'd like the community to know too. Our students are so smart, but if they don't take the test seriously and they go, whatever, check through all the, then we end up on a list with the state, and that's sad for us. We don't like that. Our scores are targeted to see a 5% increase for the coming year. And our TSI targeted groups will have also have lower proficiency and will need interventions to raise their proficiency. So you hear some things coming in that we need to buy. Okay, action steps. We need to educate all stakeholder groups about the board requirement to use the RI data and how they're using it. We need to continue to target the 9th graders and TSI groups who need extra reading support. We need to continue to use Trustland funding to retain a highly qualified reading teacher. We need to use added strategies in all classrooms to support all students. So there's that tier 1. Sometimes the tier 2 is the reading teacher. We need to create strong support for all levels of students to build higher level thinking, which is our school goal, whole school. So the money in here is to support the reading teacher. Still, we did that last year. And we need to, let me see if there's anything else in here. That's the main thing in that one.
What amount?
I would say 120,000 is a good, almost exact guess. And if you know that the amount of Trustlands we have, even with supporting halftime math and the reading teacher, which is 4 times the counselor, we're well within the space to have other funding or more funding. Okay. Okay. We need to add a new goals. We have math, we have reading, we have overall graduation, and also another thing I typed in. They always ask if there's extra funding for any reason, what you would do with it. And generally, you're going to try to do more of what you're already doing. So what I put in here, and this is just an aside, we are going to provide additional resources for students preparing for AP and ACT testing. There's stuff online you can buy, there's really good books. And I think it's appropriate that we would say when we want all of our students to be on those higher level classes and doing higher level things, that we would provide more prep classes and more materials for them to study. So I put in an amount for that. It probably is too low, but I'm guessing. And also, we are always ready to purchase additional laptops for students, and we're still in conversations about one-to-one, and there's a lot of things with that we're considering. Currently, our approved laptops that the students use are $437 each. If we even had 10,000 available, we would be able to purchase 23 laptops, which is close to a class set. And that's always a good thing to buy computers. If we had more money here, I would say more computers. Okay. Yes.
Can I ask a couple of questions about the first 3 goals?
Yes, and who all has questions? Let's figure out. Yes, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my first one is, now, it's the math goal because those are the lowest scores on tests. Why did you pick math? Are we scoring the lowest in math of any subject?
Yes. Math is really hard. And I think tests and math are hard. It's a whole different thing. When you take an English test, reading, writing, there's a whole different mindset. When you go to do a math test, especially when you've been reading and writing, it's like, oh, what is this? And also our greatest areas of academic need when we're looking at all of our students and in our TSI groups, math and language arts, those are the tests that 9th and 10th graders all take. And that is what you look up on the website from the state and you see. And yes, they are definitely our greatest academic need for absolutely.
And then about reading, this is a parent with my 4th child here at least as a freshman. An observation is that compared to elementary school and middle school, they're not reading at home nearly as much. I don't see,
There's not like logs and stickers and
right, there's 5 new items. Reading more would improve reading scores.
okay, just thank you. That's a good piece. Yes,
So, 1 second, Pam, are you saying that at the end, that 10,000, like you would use landfill funds for $10,000 for computers?
it asks if there was extra funding,
Like,
or if you were not in addition, or things that you weren't able to spend down. Like, there's a lot of reasons why our budgets kind of go swampy and we have more money than we thought. We're just saying, what would you do?
Can you tell me, it was 10,000 for computers and then how much was
I
it?
said, if we had 10,000, that would be a classroom set, and then I said 3,000 to help students preparing for AP, which by the way, we have over 900 students that are gonna, not students, but 900 AP tests that our students are gonna sit for this year. 900, we had almost 700 last year. So our higher level students are stepping up, but they need as much support as students who aren't doing as well. So I like to be able to put in both. Yes, who else? Oh, Matt, sorry, Matt was sitting down to you.
So I just want to clarify, goal 1 is to increase graduation rate, basically, right? And one of the sort of like strategies is techniques for tough times.
Yep.
So I've talked to the techniques for tough times teacher and, from my understanding, he is not up for a full-time position, or like his class itself is not, being offered full-time. You know, like it won't be, but like it would be A or B is my understanding. And so I guess my question is, if that's a strategy, then why is that getting cut down, as well as, I would like to point out to everybody here, the techniques for tough time teacher has worked really hard to get a $500 scholarship for seniors that you can apply for, and it's cash, it doesn't have to go towards education, it can be whatever you need. And if that class were to be cut, it is very possible that the service sponsor for that would be pulling that scholarship and that opportunity for seniors.
We're gonna work on that. And I think, we're gonna have a way to, again, that first, like, look at the funding and how we're gonna spend teacher time is based on the students that have signed up right then, and that was a month ago. There have already been some shifts and some changes in that. And we have talked, and you guys need to know that I have individual conversations or departmental conversations with pretty well every teacher in this building. I hear what they would like to do, and I hear changes, and I hear their passion, and we are going to take care of that. Yes.
And the second one pertains to the second goal, which is get math scores up. I also talked, I don't know if I'm supposed to say.
You can just say it, teacher.
Okay, well, I talked to a math teacher, and again, from my understanding, he is, or sorry, they are not, I suppose, like, not being offered full time. It's not, exactly half of the part time, but it's not, so he won't have, all one per period a day, so between 6 and 8 classes, they won't be receiving that. So, if part of the budget is to hire a new math teacher, part-time, why don't we just keep on that teacher full-time instead of having 2 half-time teachers? There won't be 2 half-time teachers.
That's not the case. And I'll have to talk to you about that, but that's another thing that is in the works. And I mean, in general, I'm gonna remind everyone that our student body population has shrunken a little bit, not hugely. But it is shrunken because our whole district is down more than 5,000 students over the last couple of years. It's mostly impacting elementary schools right now, but it's starting to get up to our level. So I know we talked a lot about recruiting students, but when we start with registration, with that first look, we don't have all the information yet, we don't have all the students registered, and definitely things have shifted since then. Okay,
So I think what we'll do now, we'll have any other questions for Pam's proposal. And then I think then we can turn the time over to whomever may have an alternate proposal and we can compare kind of the different options.
well, I also think we should just write the new goal. I think we should write the goal for the.
Well, we're speaking to discuss it and debate it, because this isn't the only plan that's being proposed. And I think it's fair to hear other people's proposals that they've prepared and.
Okay, but just know that this, I need to show you guys one more thing, and if you would like, we could write the halftime fine arts together. It's the same box, I just have to add new. But there is a checklist that comes from the state about these goals in this plan and how it has to align with our school improvement plan. And so I just want you to know, we'll go through that checklist, but this does absolutely align to the school improvement plan, which is still in draft form as well from our whole faculty, but it's pretty close. So
Questions on anything that Pam has.
This is more just a process question, maybe for my benefit and maybe some of the parents that are on Zoom. What is the process? I mean, so I'm sitting here, presenting this, are we here just to kind of say, yeah, that's great, and provide, clips of input, or, maybe you could just take 30 seconds and tell us how this typically goes, what our role here is, and how we can, come up with the best plan and prove that everybody has building to have input.
So I would say that's what this body is for. I mean, there's a lot that we do, and this year we really, I think, enhanced the role that SCC plays, because that's the role it should play, is having parent input from the school. But this body was legislatively created so that parents can have this funding and decide how they want it to be spent at the school. And Pam, I think, has done, I mean, the way that you've written these goals and the data and the measurement, I feel like it's a lot more comprehensive than what we had last year. And so I appreciate the work that Pam's put in the proposal, but I think it's important that we make it very clear that this is a plan that is decided, drafted, voted on by the entire SCC, and it's not, I mean, I think Pam has put together some really great proposals that we can consider, but I think it's important that this body understands that this is your decision, and that if there are other parents that have different suggestions, we're here to work on it together. Pam obviously has incredible insight as a parent here at school, but that's what this process is about.
For you, Pam, with regard to the percentages that is reflected on different tests, do we know who took those tests and who didn't take those tests to see if it's truly reflective of the whole of East High School, or if it's more skewed toward the upper half of students as opposed to the lower half of students even taking those tests?
It's a good question. We are required to have 95% participation in every state test. 95% of all students. So students may be more or less prepared to take those tests, but they do take them 95%.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but that didn't answer. The reflected. Does that reflect, does that 95% really reflect those that are attending school on a regular basis, which are probably the top students as opposed to the lower third or what have you? And if we really got 100% participation, would that lower our scores?
We have the data broken down by every kind of demographic that there is. Our district provides us with, and a lot of it is on the website, the state website, of all the students who take tests and who they are. And if they, you know, if they're from a different group of students, or if they are whatever, all the things, it's all broken down. So there, you can see all of that.
I just think that would be important for us to understand what those numbers really reflect. Because if it is skewed towards my gut feel would be that it's skewed towards those that are attending on a regular basis that come and test, as opposed to many that are absent, that probably would score a lower score. So I think that that's important to understand, at least in the picture of what it represents, so that we can know what it represents truly. Second thing with regard to the land trust plan, you've inserted things that aren't to be funded with a plan, but just informative. It's my understanding that those are extra and the things that should be in the plan are those that are going to be funded, not the whole plan. Unless I'm wrong.
I wish I had, the thing is this is the only funding for all the school plans. And I think it's important because, well, and the thing that got erased, the thing where you say where's expenditures that need to come from trust lands, you put goal number 1, number 3, bullet 3, goal number 2, number 1. Like you say exactly in the list where there's something that we think should be funded through this plan. But I think the others, when the state reads it, when our district people read it, I think it gives them a bigger picture so they understand how hard we're working and how we're putting a lot of efforts together to the same goal. I think it's okay. We're not going to get dinged for having more information and things that we don't have to fund through this pot of money. It'll be okay.
I think it just muddies up the actual funding, what is being funded and what is not being funded. So I think it's clearer if those things are not. That's my perspective.
Okay, well,
And I
you
think
can check on that.
as the third item, I think that there's probably some other plans or other ideas with regard to the plan. Getting back to what was presented and if you finish what you're doing, then we get those.
Yep, that's great. Here's what I want you to see first. Let me just show you this because any other plan and any other ideas have to meet these criteria. And this is from the state and our district. It's kind of a group thing. So our plan for trust lands must have specific academic goals. And they give you a place, and this is part of what I have to fill out when I send all this in. Do we have yes or no specific academic goals? Do we have steps to meet the goals? Do we have measurements to assess improvement? Do we have specific expenditures to implement the plans? And then it gives us some ideas, a reminder of what things we can purchase. And that there's priorities, plan priorities are consistent with the student success plan. I think that's the most important thing. And so the reason I wanted to show you this is because it is very consistent with the student success plan. And I think it's a lot of good things to start with. It is not perfect.
And how this comes from the state school board? These criteria?
This
Where do we come from the district?
is from, there's the Utah
About
code,
the district.
there's Utah code right there. And it is in part of what we have in the trust lands and our school improvement plan and some other pieces that all get put together. So that's why I wanted to show that, because if we get off track with that, it's gonna spend time that we don't have, because we need to have something ready by the 16th of April, and we have spring break, yeah.
The last point on those questions is about, you said it's got pulled into, sorry, what was that?
You can't see it.
Which one?
Said that this plan needs to fold into your bigger plan.
Right here. This is the school, yeah. Right there.
If we heard what that plan is, so we can, as we're deliberating this, we can make sure that this.
You almost have it, exactly. That's what I put in here.
So what you put in there is your bigger plan.
Well, it's a little different. The wording in the school success plan has some minor differences, and they don't have things written the same way for the goals and a lot of the steps. And the interventions and working with our team fighters is exactly the same. And it's a draft too. I'm not saying anything is done. Both plans are in draft form. But yeah, just wanted to share this with you as a guide as we're going forward.
Okay, so my question, the numbers are a little bit different from last week, the handout that we had last week on the right sheet, so I'm just wanting to.
The one in here is because something weird. The carry over is different.
Just want to know if you guys have the most recent numbers. So I had, goal one, we have 65,000 counselors, 10,000 interns, 17,000. And then you lost me, right? Did you go through reading the whole sheet?
Oh, that's, yeah, the reading teacher, 120,000.
100,000,
Right.
That's it.
I think that's it. A lot of the other things in there, that's for a very experienced,
Okay, and then the math.
the halftime math teacher, 65,000.
The whole math score.
The whole math
to, what was the total?
Um,
And maybe break it out. I think there were like 3 or 4 expenditures on that one, because that's the one that I tweaked a little.
let me get to it. And I am so sorry. I have the whole list. I have all the amounts, at least in draft form, and I will write it one away.
No, apology, I couldn't hear you.
I think what I'm saying is that there is quite a bit of funding still to play with. I don't think we're anywhere near like the top of what we have.
So I have a question for Ken. Does anyone else have a question?
If we could just get them now.
Hold on, I'm trying to get them.
Oh, I took notes, so I can write it on this board. Perfect, yes.
And what's involved in success plan in creating that?
Our school improvement, or our SIC does a lot of work, and then the whole faculty will approve it. So it's our full faculty
Just the fact that it's.
every year. Yeah.
I have heard a lot of talk about, like advocates. And I was just wondering, what exactly is their purpose in terms of increasing graduation rates? Is it to make us score higher? Is it to improve attendance? What's the?
They are a tier 2 intervention, which obviously doesn't impact every student. They are there to advocate for students, help them get in class, help the bathroom to be safe, help all to be clear. Because when students feel safe and they get to class on time, they do better. So a lot of students haven't. And it's a small portion of this, and I would ask us to just let it sit for now. But it's a bigger.
Mainly attendance, so is that their main goal is to get kids to go to class?
Yes, which is the main reason why. It's yeah. Think about this. They have caseloads of students they work with. I'm not sure why this is getting to be a thing, but they work with caseloads of students. They call parents, they check attendance, they track students. They give like, come in and if you've attended our class all the time, you get a donut. It's a lot of quiet work and it's not very visible, but it's important.
Since hiring them, have attendance rates increased?
I think the halls are more clear and safer, and the whole faculty kind of agrees with that.
I understand what you're saying, but it's yes or no question.
Yes. I'll say yes.
I will say, in the plan, it said last year that it would do attendance reports from the months of September to March. And I know we asked for that last month, but you said that the Marston doesn't provide that. Is that something we can get a report on? Or was that just a goal that we weren't?
I think that has been a tough goal to fulfill because with my turnover and my people in my office, we have had a hard time getting accurate information from attendance.
What is the
demographic of kids that are receiving, advocacy from them. Because it's not me, and it's not a lot of people that I think would be target students for that. Because I can tell you that if they look at my grades, my opinion of how I started throughout high school, I would be a perfect candidate. And so what demographic is it? Because it's not me.
Last year, and I've got to speak to last year because that's where we had this in. We only had 1 or 2 advocates the whole year. And one advocate handles about 10 to 12 kids on the caseload, and then is in the hall and doing all that. So it was very few students. And it's students that tend to come up and be noticed, either they're not in class or they're having problems. So it was a very small amount of students who could have used that help.
Right, one demographic, generally other kids.
Kids who aren't attending school and have risk factors like whatever, like a lot of kids have risk factors, a lot of things.
Okay, so we need to, I'm gonna focus the questions on the SCC members, who need to be able to make the vote. I have a quick question for County mentioned the supervised study as one school. So that's actually, kind of a main question that I have is, how many sessions of supervised study do you currently?
Is it four?
I think it's 4. No, we had 4 last year, and because I just did a final report for last year. 4 or 5, we don't have it every period, and that's the goal, to have it every period. It is a tier 2 and tier 3 intervention for students who are greatly behind in credits. And after COVID, that is a lot more students than you would expect. And we have, supervised studies isn't perfect, but it is a place where students can get help and have a space that's quiet and have an adult that's advocating for them. And there's different ways that they can make up credit, and it's been really exciting.
So are you looking to increase the number?
Our SIC goal was to have at least 1 every period for next year.
So can you tell me, so I have a couple questions about it. How does it help a student recover credit? The goal isn't to recover a class that you fail. It's just to allow elective credit for being in the study hall. It helps.
It has to do with making a credit, and math is a really good example. She shared her personal experience.
So I went to high school from right when COVID hit pretty much. Up until about halfway through my sophomore year, we made it back to my grade. And then dropped out again into the beginning of my junior year, which was last year. And starting this year, the 2022-2023 school year, I started this year with 9 credits, and I'm a senior. And I now sit above, I'm about 19.5 credits right now. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without the help of our supervising teacher, which is Miss A, and Mr. Stewart, those are the 2 that I had. I know McClellan also does supervised studies. So you can't do credit, but you can make up classes that you have failed, which are the classes that you need to graduate. So it gives you a space that is quiet, calm, if you need help, and somebody who advocates for you. I will say Miss A and Ms. Stewart have helped me greatly throughout this year. I've recovered more than 10 full credits, and 1 packet is only a quarter of a credit. So I've done so many credits. But I will say from my personal experiences, and this may not be for everybody, but the supervisor of the classes truly have helped me with a space and a person who advocates for me, because without the class, I wouldn't be able to do it at home. I would not gotten as far as I am with my graduation. Yes.
So are you like doing study packets?
So there's physical practice and canvas courses. So the main goal of the class that I'm using is to sit down and have a space and somebody to help you get those done.
Do you have any data on how effective they are?
Yeah, it's we count how many quarter credits students can manage to get that they finish. And in last year's plan, when I think we had less sessions last year, but in here is another organization that partners with us that also does. And they reported they sent me some data, they had 275 credits recovered last year by students. And when you think about COVID, and again, a lot of you in here do not have students who need this. It is not for those students. It is for students who really had a different experience the last few years and really have some desperate need for help. It is a tier 2 and sometimes a tier 3 intervention. And so many of our students need it. And I'm not sure why supervised studies has become kind of a thing in this discussion, but it is a very critical piece of what we're doing for students who are behind and who have a lot of life circumstances that really require them to get some extra help and time to get graduated.
I know for me, it was an issue just because I didn't know very much about it. So I think this dialogue was really helpful. I know another reason it was an issue for me is because it was my understanding that in the initial proposal from the SIC, that fine arts teachers were being asked to cover those. And in some cases, with the documents they provided, some appreciate that opportunity. Others would rather teach more music and not be doing this study. So that's why I was curious about the increase in teaching.
What I'll say about that is we have the needs of the school. That is the first thing that we focus on when we're doing any scheduling, any planning, any conversation with teachers. If our needs of the school require intervention for students who need it, and we have highly qualified teachers who can help with those needs, that is what we do. And there's a lot of needs that our students, a lot of things are student needs that our teachers do. But supervised studies has become more of a need since COVID.
Any other questions for Pam and her proposal?
I just,
But we need to make sure that other people.
what is the total fund? What's the?
Oh, I can work on that and I'll show it all
What's the budget? What's
for
the?
this plan. I am ready for that.
And we should look what's on here too, because I'm not sure, for all the years during COVID, Trustland people didn't manage to take money out that was spent and put money in, and it was like, you have 200,000 of carryover, what is your problem? I don't have 200,000 of carryover. It's been interesting. Yeah, okay, anyway, that's.
I have a question. Well, maybe negative, or a question. Anyway, I'm just wondering, because people not being in school that's been affected by COVID. And I feel like supervised study plan is kind of a result of, the problems from COVID are a lot of result of, this really important to keep us out. Could they not support the financing for supervised classes, like even at every school, but is that something we can ask them to pay for?
Probably not. I'm just gonna say that. They'll say, go back to your principal. So we are gonna handle supervised studies as an intervention. And if we find some better things, and the counselors are always talking about this, if we find some better ways to support students, we are absolutely nimble and flexible, and we will figure it out. Okay.
The accountability for the district, I guess that's just the question, we say probably not, I'm just asking the question.
Because
I say it for you, they're not saying to take any responsibility, there's no.
things about responsibility, but they push a lot more money to the schools and don't keep as much at the district level as other districts do. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of other districts have huge overhead, huge district offices, huge like numbers of people. Our district office was torn down now, and we have very few district personnel. They don't have budgets. It all comes to us in a lot of ways. So I am not going to throw the district under the bus. I think we can handle these things ourselves.
About this earlier in the year, about citizenship grades, when I was an East Side student 25 years ago, we had citizenship grades. Would that help with attendance and tardiness? And with these children staying more on top of their classes and with their grades?
West High is piloting a very exciting program right now. And it's not citizenship grades per se, but it is academic or activity holds. So if students aren't doing what they should, they are locked out of dances, games, prom, activities, whatever it is. They can't play on their sports team if they have an activity hold. And there is a very clear thing. Anyway, they're piloting it right now. They're about 3 weeks in. Their first big hook for students was their Spirit Bowl, which is this Friday, which is way bigger there. It is the hugest thing you can even imagine. So when they started it, they said, hey, students, here's the plan, here's the rules, it's pretty, they can still have an absence or a tardiness or whatever. But if they get on that hold, the activity hold, they have to come up with a plan and they have some ideas to get off of that hold. I think it's gonna be really good. Yeah, Brenda.
Well, I just want to comment on that, because I have been a teacher for 25 years, and used to give citizenship. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is that the districts, took that away, because I know it's not a state thing, because there's other districts that do this. So I would strongly encourage you to go to a school board meeting and ask for that to be reimplemented, because I believe it would help. I think it would help, and so it's parents to go to a school board meeting or on it, and say that would be, that might help us with that, right?
And I read every time. Right, I'm here, or, yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe it's time to turn it over to any other options for Annie? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi guys, so I just, I've been pouring over these guys' plan, all week. It's fascinating, but if you have trouble sleeping, I just recommend this with looking at SCP plans of other schools. Awesome, it's all online, you can just go, you'll be asleep in 10 minutes, I promise. Try outside. Okay, so Karen's absolutely right. They give us this worksheet, right? We have to work in our parameters. We have to set a goal, then we have to set the measurements, then we have to set how we're gonna measure our measurements, right? Or how we're gonna measure this. And it's all checked and it goes from us. We approve the plan of the SCC, then it goes to the district must approve it. And then it goes to the state and the state must approve it. Anybody can turn it down. And if they turn it down, we just don't give them money. So we want to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's crossed and everything. We do have distribution. Oh,
If they say no, then you can amend
They
it.
send back many comments, and until they're all addressed, you're stuck.
Okay, so this is really just a learning curve for me, guys. I didn't know about SCP budgets until last week. Okay, so I just was like, I went into this thinking I want to save our music teacher because we love her so much. I thought, well, the district's offering a half-time position for band and orchestra instruction. Maybe we can squeeze out another half-time to be a full-time position for music instruction and stuff. And I thought we can do that with SCP money, and I still think we can do that with SCP and money. I'm just trying to be as practical as possible. So I'm looking for the lowest hanging fruit. I'm looking for $50,000 and I'm looking for justifiable $50,000. It's going to get approved at all of the levels. So this is what I came up with. And I talked to many principals who have composed their budgets and been successful. So what I think it's the math, and I really appreciate your question, why are we focusing on math? There's so much statistical data that kids that do well in math graduate from high school. We also know that kids that participate in music do better in math. So we have this whole chain of command to follow. But I went after goal 2. That is our main goal. So I rewrote goal 2. Everybody, Nancy, you should have gotten my alternative budget for goal 2. So I just pull it up here already. Yeah, everything in, well, no, the only thing that I changed in goal 1 was to take out the advocates, so that we have 2 hourly employees that are the student advocates. Those are the hall monitors and the guys that go into the restrooms and look for kids who are cutting class. I think that's not a big, but it's just, I'll take questions later, but I don't like those guys.
Quick comment on the total of the red is not, the total is not correct. It should be.
Oh, did I-
292.
Oh. Right, 292, 105?
It's 292 in the red.
Is it 267?
Instead of 267, it's 292. Just adding up.
Thank you.
I'll make sure we've got the right number.
Okay, so in my alternative budget, I took out the counselors. Not counselors, the two advocates from that goal number one, just because I think that is not a good thing. Those guys can go into our restrooms, and they are not certified teachers, and they, for all we know, they're hourly employees, you guys, we shouldn't have them in that school. Okay. So for my math goal, what do I do? I'm requesting that I'm taking that full-time math teacher to a half-time math teacher and asking Pam to make up the difference in a different budget. To bring that back up to a full-time teacher. Does that make sense to you guys? We are just the SCC, that's the one budget. Pam has a couple of budgets. I specifically suggested that she take it out of the. Yes,
Just say another budget, that's fine. Just say you want me to take it out of another budget, that's fine.
Okay. So that we can free up that money and hear me out. We can offer many electives all the time. We'll lower our class sizes for all of our core classes, math, English, science, all of the classes. Does that make sense? So I'm justifying a half-time music teacher to match the district's half-time music teacher. So we're creating one full-time music teacher. And I'm justifying that with the SCC framework by saying we're going to lower the math class sizes from 26 kids, which we max our math classes at 26 students right now, to 23 students. So our goal will be all math classes will be 23 students less. The reason I chose the number 23 is because there's all kinds of data online that suggests that when you put the 24th student into a classroom, learning goes down by 23 is the magic number.
I think
and look at that.
24. 24 is where we already are. To lower that again would be for all math classes would be like 2 additional math teachers, which isn't that's really not. I feel like 24 is lower than I bet any school in Granite, many other schools here, you know?
Yeah.
So we're good. I don't think we should get lost on one person in a class.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
24 students. So that's really it. That's all I got.
The math class,
Yes.
Chris, can we bring this to a vote?
Sorry.
well, let me try it. We'll take questions and then we can entertain a motion to see if people want to vote. If people, as a majority want to vote, we'll move forward. If as a majority of people aren't ready to vote, then we'll push pause and discussion. Does that sound good?
And who's actually voting, right?
Just the FDC vote.
With regard to the budgets that were presented and the needs that were presented by the arts teachers, are those already funded or are those in addition to what is currently funded? That's the question that I have, because there's an issue, I think, besides just the half-time teacher, there's making sure that we fund each of the art departments appropriately. And so I need to understand those numbers that were put in those plans that were presented by the different teachers. Are those already funded, or are those what is remaining that hasn't been funded, or is not currently in the current plan to be funded?
I am gonna say something that's not popular, is we're not gonna talk about letters and comments from teachers in terms of this plan today. A lot of what needs to happen for all departments is what we're working on as a school. And we'll get in the weeds if we get involved with every single comment and thing that was turned in.
Let's talk about in general, Dan. Okay, and I would think talking about in general, whether that's funded or not funded, is getting into the weeds. I think that's understanding the picture.
And I think it's appropriate that if a parent wants to talk about one of those things and it applies to largest part, and I think that that's fair. I don't think it's anyone's place to say that we're not going to talk about that if it's applicable to what we're discussing. Yeah.
It's not allowable expense of plans, you can't buy shells and other things.
That was the question. All right.
I'm just saying, for our thing.
But
I do think though, what he's trying to get at is, we have needs and we want to try to meet all those needs. We only have authority over this one pot, but it is helpful to understand the other pots of the school, and I think it's an appropriate question to ask.
I think it's a conversation.
I do think it's a combination. I think especially when there were 100 people here last week, and they're wanting to have arts be funded here, I think we can discuss how that's appropriate. And if some of those things aren't appropriate, then we don't put them in plans. But it's okay for them to ask, like if they're maybe funded in a different spots, yes.
No, can I just touch on, it's not actually there. I'm talking about
No, state office for the SCC over the last meeting. So you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me that a true fine arts teacher all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a helpful clarification, but that's not what he's proposing. He's wanting to know, are we taking care of these needs through other plans? Are we able to free up some of that money perhaps by funding more that's it's funded, you know?
Because if we fund something that's not, doesn't have to be funded under the budget of the school, then hopefully that money that's being funded through the trust plan can be funded through the school. If it's a priority for the group, then it's a trade-off between one and the other. So I'm asking the question, are those monies that were indicated, are they currently being funded, or is that dollars that is not currently going to be funded this next year on the current school?
A minor wish list, things that eventually we need in order to sustain a program.
Okay. So you don't have a budget currently, you don't think for this next year to cover that?
Fine.
Okay. And how about anyone else that wants to?
Well, one thing I think, Ms. A, I mean, thank you all for your support. It's been so lovely last week, it just really touched my heart, so thank you all. We're really happy with the work that we're doing and proud with, how we're growing and building, getting kids in the building, excited about learning. And the more, students, because we do charge a student fee. Now there is a few waivers and the state, you know, that's coming up that meeting, I think it was this week. But, we're to get half of the fee waivers, which we will be able to buy supplies with, prepare instruments, buy music, buy new instruments, keep upkeep, rental fees for instruments. There's more other money that can go there, but class fees does give us some things to help us with that. And then Logan and I have done a lot of fundraising as well, even though that goes to a lot of tour. But in terms of budget, our budget is quite small. I've been halftime before this year, so that limited was halftime for such an expensive program. So then sometimes with our tickets and stuff, we can put money towards you know, getting music or doing some repairs, but again, mine was a little wish list.
Hold on, here comes the mic, we'll turn it on.
So, Brenda, let's go ahead and take your comments, and then we'll just see if there's any other questions on Annie's.
That's probably it's our goal, the budgets don't have any weighing in what we need to do tonight. So I want to keep us on track. A lot of us have other commitments. This was a second scheduled meeting, so I would like to stay focused. And here is Annie's the only plan. I thought other parents might have another proposal. Is Annie's the only one that we're going to hear from?
But I do have not, I do just wanted to have, really that those needs can be taken care of, that the arts team. I do that. I think caveat to my plan, which is that halftime music teacher. We are we're slaves to the numbers, you guys. So if we don't have kids enrolled in our school, if we have declining enrollment, it works on the whole school level and what's on the class level. We get defunded, right? We lose money for every kid that's not in our school. We're losing money. Every kid that is not taking orchestra or band, we lose funding to pay the teacher. That's how we ended up in this place in the first place, right? We didn't have enough kids sign up for orchestra. I know the numbers are in question amongst us, but we'll just take Pam at her word that we didn't have the numbers. So we're trying to make up. I am concerned that we don't have the numbers. And my whole goal is to try to get our numbers up, both in music class specifically and as East County as a whole. We've had the white flight during COVID. All the people have left, right? All of them.
That's fair to say, though. I mean,
Okay,
it's not having a hard time being in front of people and performing. They
no,
are.
no, no, I'm talking about overall. Our enrollment numbers are down.
I will say, this is how people with not, kind of being an orchestra and a music program, it's causing a lot of stir in the neighborhood. Again, and so the parent is doing a local voice flux, already the way that East High is viewed is don't go there.
Yeah,
And
right.
destroying a program like this is already working and we're destabilizing. So you talk about people in enrollments, I can tell you already, people have already said they won't do that.
Hey, you guys, I just have to say this. The rumor that we were not gonna have orchestra from the very beginning of this conversation is not true. That is not true. But we have chamber orchestra, and orchestra.
No, they were not saying that.
Yeah, they're combined.
Yeah, no, they,
But
they weren't on the plan, camera. That's what I'm saying is.
I have,
This is not.
this is our initial staffing from SIC. Orchestra and string are on here together as one class. Yes, they.
Maybe they've been at it. Or they-
Maybe they can.
Okay, but that was a very. It's here on. The point is here, there's no. That
But I think what the issue is, so focusing back on the proposed budget. I know that, I mean, I don't know what, if you're going down the top time, I guess the question is, if we don't fund it, the extra half, what are we? It's not registered as a guitar classes or,
There's, I think the FTE would have to go up a little for sure, to have orchestra together, to have band and concert band separate, which Amy and I talked about, which there's numbers to justify that, and to offer some guitar, for sure, minimum.
What's FTE?
full-time equivalent, like the full-time staff.
So the point is, having a half-time or a three-fourths teacher, or a whole teacher, a lot of the things that we've been talking about will stay on the table.
Okay.
Somebody say something, please hear.
Well, looking for Mr. Bingham, and then I think, are there any other specific questions for Annie's plan?
I haven't even gotten through it.
Oh.
Her plan.
Let's go to finish the plan, and then this is what I would propose. If there are any questions specifically for her plan, we can address those quickly. And then I think it would be helpful to get a temperature in the room, that Malone suggested. We're not actually making a vote, but just to see if people feel like they're ready to, I would suggest maybe vote by line items and see where the math ends up, but if people feel like they need to have more discussion, we can vote to do more discussion or to move to actually voting, line by line. Does that sound like a good plan? Let's go ahead and finish up.
Sorry, so I have almost 30,000 in my budget, and my proposal for this, which is not hammered out yet to be determined, that you guys like my budget and vote for my budget. I would like to suggest that we have these awesome music programs in our junior highs. We have the Clayton Play, Hillside does their own thing, that Glendale vibrant music program down there. I would like to pay the music teachers to offer a bridge music course in the summer, right before school starts, for the 8th graders, to welcome them into the band and orchestra. I think if those kids get lost between junior high and high school, they're afraid to try out, they're afraid to audition, whatever it is, let's get them in junior high, let's get our orchestra and begin the numbers up. So that's what I think that's pretty, you know, teachers. And then I also, if there's any money left from the $30,000, I think that what other schools do for that, we provide study for credit recovery, is they pay teachers that want to do that course. So they say, here's $10,000, they give teachers to provide study course. That's what every other high school in the state is doing. We're the only ones that are kind of tacking it on to workers, and teachers or full-time teachers are teachers that are less taxed. So I think that would be optional for teachers. I don't think they should be required to do that. And I don't think their job should depend on it. Like some teachers aren't full-time, so we give them supervised study. And there may be, I don't know, an underwater basket weaving expert, and now all of a sudden they're teaching higher makeup credit. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. It's not their expertise. We should let the experts volunteer to do that, and we should give them money to do it. So that's my proposal. Hey, Mr. Mayor, did you have a quick comment?
Well, I just wanted to propose to, or bring to light something that might, that affects this, which is what Pam is talking about, which I proposed to Pam and Jen that the numbers were there for the instrumental teacher to be full-time. And so initially, in the initial plan, it was 1 class of band, 2 classes of guitar, and that was the half-time, that was 3 classes. Even though there were 22 or something like that in an orchestra, it could be a combined stacked orchestra class, that's 4. Music appreciation that had 18 in it and a half supervised study, that's another 5. We had 12 sign up for music theory. Last year we had 3, this year we have 12, and I contacted schools all around the state asking them how many they have in AP music theory, and they range from about 20 to or 10 to 20, with most of them being around 10 to 15, because it's just too niche. That's another one that could happen. Or we invested in splitting the orchestra classes, because there was 10 in one and 12 in the other, to try and put that investment in to get the orchestra. So if you split those, that becomes another class. So in the initial plan, the numbers were there, but the regard for trying to find the number or the FTE wasn't on the plan. And so, of course, I think it's great to find funds for the arts, of course. I mean, the first one to tell you that, but there needs to be some conversation about, well, if these things are being funded in the school with this many enrollments, why is a class of 22 not being funded in the orchestra? I guess it is now, but that needs to change because, you know, the online, the job posting says 0.5. Well, it shouldn't be 0.5. There's 4 classes now with, you know, a band, 2 guitar, you know, so we need to address that situation first in order to then decide what can we use or what do we need the funds to be used for.
Okay, I'm going to, well, I think we need to move to the people.
Questions were done, we're gonna vote and discussion of vote or not, which is the call question. So those who are not using parliamentary procedure, those on the school committee council call the question says, I would like to call the discussion and see if we're ready to say, we're done discussing, let's make a move. And the group can also say, no, we want to continue discussing, but it allows us to.
Yeah. So, before we do that, we did say we would let one. Jen, we have an appointment of overboard, which we will be doing in our next meeting. But we did have a gentleman here who sent that email that I sent to you, almost 2 pages, and we, as a group informally, not according to Party Pro, but that's meetings we have adopted Party Pro and Swami just yet. We decided we would let one more comment and then we moved to call the question. I think because he put so much effort into a 2-page email, we can give him just a moment, and then I think that's a great motion to move forward with deciding what we want to do for it.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this comment is not related to the email, but it's actually just a question, part of the question. Between the budgets, I'm wondering if the half of the counselors, full-time teachers, half teachers, would be 65,000 proposal for next year. Because I think the 50,000, 100,000 were based on the numbers of the last meetings. I think earlier today, Pam started by saying that the differences in the next year's budgets. I'm wondering if 50,000 that I felt that we changed to
Thank you, Dan. I think it's great. I think we're at the point now where if we decide to vote that we want more discussion, then we can do that. But, this is what I would propose, to help us kind of move along in a productive way. I think we can vote to decide if we want to move forward to voting. And if that's the case, I think it's a little tricky. I mean, we saw a little bit of Annie's previously, Pam, but this is the first time we've seen it, so I think it's fair that we are taking some time to discuss it. We didn't get to review these numbers before, but I think that a major distinction, a major issue is that the numbers are different from last year because of inflation, or just we under budgeted last year.
And I had to make up for it in other places. So I was just trying to get a little more, and then it was made it a little again as we get exact numbers. Yeah, it's close.
So, I have some thoughts on how we can move that process along, but how about we've had our calls to questions, I imagine for a second. That we'd like to vote. So, raise your hand if you're an SCC member and you would like to move on to actually voting versus continue to discuss. No, we are voting to vote. I think that the voting can be a multi-step process, like we might need to say, who here wants to somehow include a fine arts per person? I mean, that's a major distinction of the plans, right? If we have a clear idea that we want to keep that or that we don't, that helps us move forward with more specifics.
I think we've got a lot of new numbers, but we haven't really had a chance to discuss and understand. I think that we can understand the sentiment by a preliminary vote, but a final vote. I think there's too much discussion with regard to the differences and the sentiment with regard to supporting the arts and how that can be melded into the budget. I think it's a little preliminary, since these numbers just were put up to approve of that.
I think, okay, well, let's start with the motion. Do you guys want to keep talking, or would you like to move forward with some votes, which that could be a motion? Raise your hand if you'd like.
Just say, this will help us vote. I am willing to take the advocates off the table for mine, because I hear a lot of people saying possibly that money could be spent better or whatever. If I need them, I can put that somewhere else. And also with any budget, like your family budget for the year, there's things that change. And if I would have had part of that budget that I lost today, it would have had more, it had more detail about where the number came from. And I promise it has to be that way before we send it in. It has to be more detailed, and absolutely we'll share that. Or we can have a small committee to look at that and how the arts gets implemented.
Yeah, so first of all, does anybody want to move on with a little bit more formal process of figuring out what we want to do? Raise your hand if you'd like to do that, or continue the discussion.
I want to vote. If we can't have an initial vote today, we are never going to get done by the 7th.
And what do you mean by vote is we actually decide, like, are there certain things that's vote? We want to include them. We want to, excuse me, we want to do the music teachers. I don't think, like, we're not voting on one entire time. We want to be able to shut up. Raise your hand if you'd like to move forward with like some form of voting. And who's opposed wants to. Okay, so we have one proposal from Ned about. Are you proposing that we not vote tonight, or what is it that you?
On a final plan, we can get a temperature where people want different line items that can look very.
Yeah, so it's just that, yeah, I don't see, unless you guys want to vote that you're ready to go with the proposal as it is in the chat. I would suggest this is a motion that maybe we decide, do we want to incorporate half-time of a finance team? If that's a yes or no, that really makes it easier to determine this. So we have a motion second. Okay, who's in favor of including half of a fine arts teacher in the plan versus not? Raise your hand if you're in support of that, if you're an SCC member.
I thought we were voting, we were gonna discuss it more, did you notice that one?
Yes, we all, there was no insurance on the bus. So there's, you know, so there's and then any opposed that do not want to include a parent teacher. Yeah, I believe it carries. So I propose that we just in the few minutes that we would like to take, unless we want to hammer it out even further. Should we like go ahead and circle? I mean, it clearly can, it's going to take 50,000 to sign half of the fine arts teacher, right?
Yeah, that's the will of the community.
If that FTE goes up, then you don't necessarily, you could have more money, that's what I was saying, it's kind of embarrassing that land trust funds needs to hire this person, FTE dictates that there should be a higher FTE.
Well, if the higher FTE goes up, we're saying that I don't know that Karen is saying that she's going to fund the increase 15 budget here, so it wouldn't have to.
Sure, but if FTE goes up to 175, then you don't, might not need as much.
Right. Now, correct, but there is much to do with it, correct? But as the year goes on, so if things like that change, it can come back to us and have a little extra and things.
And let's not restrict like what we want to do based on that. We always waste.
Yeah, and that's a discussion. Yes, absolutely.
Do we need to change those numbers on him, so that it's gonna mention?
Yeah,
So it's more accurate, of what it would cost, we need to change those numbers.
Either we need to change them or we need to suggest that they need to, that difference needs to be funded elsewhere. And so that's a discussion, you know, to have. I mean, do we want to look at maybe Pam's plan and see how much room, I mean, if we add the 50,000 here, we have to figure out the difference. And maybe we can have someone who does that, you know, or, you know.
We need to, I'm the one that can get the information about how much each thing costs. You guys, that would be so horrible if you guys had to do that. Please don't try to take that on. But if we can do that, and I think there's enough wiggle room here that it's going to work. We took out half of another position, half-time teacher, and are asking another, so we are gonna be fine.
So we had 17,000 that you took out, plus the 4,000 over, so that's almost half. So do you right now have any proposals of how you could find an extra 20,000 that you can discuss now, or would you like to get the budget to balance? If we're adding this in, what would it give to make it
Well,
out?
mine is smaller than Andy's, so why would I be balancing?
So if you just added 150,000 for the music.
And also, oh, your balance is 292, or it's 266, so Andy's, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we added 50,000, but we only got rid of 17 and we have 4 left over. So that's what I'm saying is,
Just, you guys, I will be able to handle this from here, I promise. I promise it will work. I'm gonna call you in and get you right in the,
I just don't want us to lose that full-time math teacher. I just want to make sure that you are able to budget for a full-time math teacher that we had last year.
okay.
In this budget.
I agree with that.
Because I reduced it for big words.
Pam, are you proposing that maybe you review this list and see how this can be added, but we balance out close to this and send that by email?
Because I was sitting at 325,000.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, are you volunteering to think of, or do you want this body to decide what we would cut between this?
No, I do not want the body to decide that. I think the budget.
I mean, we will eventually, but you're saying it's an initial proposal.
Yeah, but to cut it as things right now, and I really don't trust the state bottom line number because that their form is always a little funky. I think I can work with this and we'll make it work. I think it can work.
So how would you like to propose that you work through some numbers and send us something by email? So that we're not doing it last minute at the next.
We're gonna meet, and you and I are gonna meet, and we're gonna make sure that we have a pretty solid idea and make it all up, and I will call Paul Plant and say, what the heck with your forms, then we'll get it all done, and then you'll send it out. Is that okay?
And then if everybody else was reviewing it by email in the meantime.
So really, the only new thing.
Well, I'm gonna make sure the numbers are correct, and make sure the form is added correctly, and make sure the carryover is correct.
Why don't we keep the same numbers? that-
Pam's.
That Pam's number. So let's not decrease anything. Let's just keep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, right, and then let's go.
Okay, but we can't officially vote on that as, but again, yeah, so would you like to make that as a motion?
I motion that we take Pam's budget and add in the arts teacher. This is. One week. And keep that the whole number, decreasing or increase, but keep that Pam's budget. You send that to us on the email, and then when do we vote on this?
Well, we do have time to do a formal vote at the next meeting. It will still be about a week before the final deadline. But I think we should do at least a temperature vote by email.
And then one other thing, look, if Pam doesn't have the budget. To add to take care of this budget, I think we put together a committee that they will chair, okay? And I'll be more than happy to see what I can be assistant, and whatever money that we.
Don't worry about that. I'm gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay with this. Don't worry.
So what I thought was with regard to that, I think we need to come together with regard to the wish list of the arts teachers and find a way to fund that from the community.
And
Okay?
I think that's, yeah, great follow up.
That's something we need to quantify, add at least 20% to it. And find a way to fund that in the community. So that we can have a solid arts program and grow the arts program inside.
And we want to send a message to the community that, look, we care about this stuff. Okay? And we will do whatever we need to do. You need to send that message and like, maybe whatever you feel like this is. This is what we need to do. We need to. raise
That's
the
a
money.
separate meeting.
Yeah. Well, you verbalize the motion. Or I'm happy to summarize it for you.
You know, let me say,
Okay.
I motion that we pass Pam's budget, okay? Where, the only difference is that we're gonna add in, Miss Day.
Well, not this day, but half of the extra.
So there's no, we keep that original budget, and then,
Allow Pam to make some amendments to.
tell that to us, right? And then the next time we get together, we vote on it. Say,
And-
then add in, preliminary.
And then maybe in between, I would be happy to make it a little warm or everybody can say how they're feeling. It's not the email.
That's the more shape. 1 second.
All in favor?
Do you have something? Yes, I think. We're just saying to this group that we want an arts teacher. You can keep the plan we have now and fund the arts teacher out of the budget, you can fund the math teacher. So I don't know that we need to redo everything that Pam has done and the city council has done the last couple of years. I think you can take the plan, keep math full time, as you said, you think you can find this, if that's possible. Then we leave the plan the way it is. We put arts in the traditional budget, which I think you prefer because it's a more sustainable budget. School committee council is not as sustainable, as you can see here, we're finding someone's job to give it to somebody else. It's a paper slot for arts. And that it would think it's doable, but I think
The community is unwilling to do that, because if it's just left with Pam,
let's be reasonable. So there's a lot of travel street.
I'm just gonna fund it after them, it's gonna fund the procedure, but will the community can carry on.
Have you remember motion to amendment? Yes or no? Do you like general amendment? No. Okay. So all in favor of Maloney's motion? Raise your hand if you're an SCC member. Any opposed? Okay, great. I think we made that clear. We'll mention it in the minutes process. I'll create a Google form. We'll make sure we've at least seen the plan and gotten an idea of how people feel. And then I think we can do a formal vote at our next SCC meeting, which will be. And we'll make sure that in that plan, not only are the numbers there, but also the action items. And all. It's on the agenda.
It will text. If our budget is 292, we have 50,000 that we can't use the exact same number. It's still come up with 292. So we have to adjust something, so it can't just be adding the 50,000.
So if you have, Pam will work on what she goes to write down. If you have thoughts, reach out to Pam and she'd be happy to hear your ideas.
And if more kids are signing up over this next little while, when it's open enrollment, and everything happens, things change, so.
My daughter's asking me.
What?
All right. Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
There's a motion. Second.
Just go.
I know that was tricky. But thank you to Pam for her presentation. Annie, for yours, and we'll be in touch.